Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something you've probably never heard of, but it's literally all around you. It's an invisible chemical that connects the clothes on your back to the bottle in your hand.
Okay, let's dive right in. Take a look at these two things, a cozy fleece jacket and a regular old soda bottle. Now, they seem totally different, right? One's soft, you can wear it. The other is hard and clear, but believe it or not, they share a secret common ancestor.
And that ancestor is a chemical called paraxylene, or PX for short. So what is it? Well, it's this colorless liquid that comes from petroleum. And here's the kicker. It is the fundamental building block for the entire global polyester industry. Without PX, that fleece jacket, that soda bottle, they just wouldn't exist the way we know them. No way. So, how on earth do we get from crude oil, buried deep underground, to the polyester that makes up, get this, over half of all the fibers used in the world? It's a pretty remarkable industrial journey, let me tell you. It all happens through this process called the polyester value chain. You can think of it like a multi-step industrial recipe, taking a raw commodity and turning it into stuff we use every single day. So let's walk through it step by step. Okay, so everything kicks off at the oil refinery. You take crude oil, you heat it up, and you distill it into different parts. One of the most important parts for us is a substance called naphtha. You really got to think of naphtha as the key starting ingredient for this whole thing. Right? So you've got your naphtha. Now it gets sent over to another part of the chemical plant for a little chemistry magic. Through a process called catalytic reforming, its molecular structure gets completely rearranged. What comes out is a mix of things, but the one we care about, our star player, is paraxylene, and that gets carefully separated out. Okay, now pay attention, because this next step, this is the absolute linchpin of the entire chain. That paraxylene is oxidized, and it creates this white powder called Purified Terephthalic Acid, or PTA. And this is the part you really need to remember. Pretty much all the paraxylene made in the world is just going to one place. It's destined to become PTA. And from that PTA powder, we get to a name you've definitely heard of, PET. Yep, that's the super versatile plastic that gets melted down and then either spun into polyester fibers for our clothes or molded into those clear, tough PET resins for our bottles and food containers. So you see this whole process, but how does it scale up into this massive global industry? Well, if you want to understand who controls the raw materials for basically all the world's clothing and packaging, you've got to look at who's making the PX. And wow, take a look at this. This chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows just how incredibly concentrated production is. The Asia-Pacific region, with China leading the charge, is an absolute giant. We're talking a staggering 82% of the world's entire paraxylene supply. I mean, the rest of the world combined, it's barely a blip on the radar. Yeah, this is not a market with a ton of small players. It's dominated by a handful of absolute titans. We're talking huge, state-owned and private multinational corporations running these enormous chemical complexes. And, China's massive presence here, that's no accident. It's really the result of a strategic push for self-sufficiency, all to feed its own gigantic, world-leading textile industry. Okay, so you might be wondering, how does the market for this one kind of obscure chemical actually affect the price tag on my t-shirt? That's a great question, and the answer is all in the economics of this value chain. Location matters a lot. I mean, just look at the huge difference in PX prices around the world on this chart. Producers in China have a massive cost advantage over their counterparts in Europe and the US. And that just ripples all the way down the chain, making their textile and packaging industries way more competitive. And here's the key takeaway, really. The profitability of this entire operation, it all starts with the price of naphtha. And because naphtha comes from crude oil, anytime you see global oil prices jump up or down, that directly hits the cost of making everything from PX all the way to that final t-shirt in the store. In this industry, all the analysts and experts, they're obsessed with one number. It's called the PT-PX spread. And it's actually super simple. It's just the difference between what they can sell PTA for and what it costs them to buy the PX to make it. If that spread is wide, awesome, they're making healthy profits. But if that spread gets narrow, uh-oh, that means their profit margins are getting seriously squeezed. And guess what? As this quote from the folks at ResourceWise points out, those spreads have been getting really thin lately. What's happening is that there's been this huge build-out of new factories, especially in China, and that's created a classic oversupply problem, pushing down prices and hurting profits for pretty much everyone in the business. All right, let's zoom out for the big picture here. let's really understand why this one single chemical is considered such a big deal, a strategic commodity on the world stage. This number right here, it really says it all. About 95%. Think about that. Roughly 95% of all the paraxylene made in the world has just one job: get turned into PTA for the polyester industry. It's an incredibly focused supply chain. There really aren't any other major uses for it. So what that means is paraxylene is basically the fuel for the entire modern textile industry, right? I mean, polyester is king, it dominates global fiber demand, fast fashion is constantly hungry for more of it. So any country that can control a big, efficient PX supply chain, well, they get a massive competitive advantage in the global clothing market. The bottom line is as simple as it gets. No PX, no polyester industry. Period. So the next time you pull on a polyester shirt or grab a plastic bottle, just take a second to think about that incredible journey it took. All the way from an oil well, through a massive chemical plant, right into your hands. It's a journey that's built on paraxylene. And it really leaves us with a pretty critical question, doesn't it? As our world gets more and more wrapped in polyester, who really controls the threat?